What is up, y'all? Welcome in. We are here for our Saturday night secret sermon, where we are delving into the Gnostic Gospels. This is our Secret Teachings of Jesus segment of the week. If you end up liking this episode, you can find more just like it on my channel page. So go subscribe to my channel, Light Love Magick, and look for the playlist Secret Teachings of Jesus, where there are probably over 100 videos on the Gnostics. We've been in the Gospel of Philip. Before this, it was the Secret Book of James. I also have some baby playlists that are just kind of starting. There's secret Bible teachings, and then Secrets of the Psalms are very interesting as well. So that's there for you if you would like. And so, yeah, I just had a real keen interest in reading the Lost Gospels, and I didn't know when I would ever really make it happen. And so I thought, well, if I commit to making this part of our weekly content, then we can all read these and learn about them together. So, just a little bit of background about me. I'm not a theologian, but I am a Kabbalah student and have been for many years now. And I have a general interest and always have in cosmology. Ooh, scary bug. Weird. Ew. Ew. Oh, it's like a silverfish. Ugh. Scary. I'll deal with it later. I live next to a forest that's also kind of a swamp, so sometimes there are extra visitors around. So anyway, I like to have a bug peace treaty, and so usually I just throw them out the front door, and I don't have too many around, so they're not overrunning the place. Anyway, I'm not a theologian, but I've always been interested in creation and cosmology and spirituality and whatnot. And it just kind of always have had an affinity for it. And so what I do is I come in from my job on Saturday nights, and I open up the book and I see what passage is standing out to me. And then when something starts speaking to me and I start getting downloads, I turn on the camera and I start reading the passage to you guys, and then we unpack the passage together. So this week's portion, before we jump into the portion, just to give you a little context about the Gospel of Philip, some of the Gospels are narrative driven and they're like telling a story. Some of the Gospels have a lot of dialogue, and so it's like a scene playing out in a conversation. But the Gospel of Philip is like it's these isolated portions of text, and the text itself is quite esoteric and cryptic and metaphorical and symbolic. There's also a lot of encoded language about the mystical underlying quality of what's going on, the mystical message too. So there's a lot going on in the Gospel of Philip. And then the historians aren't sure whether this was the intended format or if they had discovered a writer in their notebook, in their notes, where they just write down some thoughts. It could be both. I feel, though, that what these are perfect for, and I'm wondering if this was the original intent, was for them to be these portions that we meditate on, where we just, because they're so thick, they're so heady, so it's almost too overwhelming to start taking these on. And so what Philip has done is taken a lot of the mysteries that Jesus would talk about, some of the deeper teachings and some of the symbolism and parables he would use, and he isolates those ideas and kind of chews on them and mulls over them a little bit by themselves. So you might recognize some of the language. A lot of the symbolism and imagery are terms that are used throughout the Gospels. But I think, here he's looking for the deeper essence. Because just some context, throughout the Bible, both the Old Testament and New Testament, particularly the Old Testament, the rabbis, the Hebrews, the scholars, the sages and patriarchs, they teach that the Gospels and the writings and the prophecies and the Torah, it should be understood and interpreted on 4 different levels. And it starts superficially on the material, right? How you understand the story at face value. And then you go a little deeper and how that affects you. What's the moral of the story? How is this affecting the way that you think about things and your consciousness and your morals and your ethics, your behavior? Then you go a bit deeper and it's about how does this call us to work on our heart? How does this change our heart? How do we understand this in a more metaphorical sense and how it relates to how we relate to the world and others? And then the deepest interpretation is the mystical scientific technology that's going on. That is in all of that stuff in the unseen realms. And there is an encoded language that is so magical about the Torah and the Logos, because it can mean multiple things at once. And the particular symbolism and metaphors and parables are chosen in such perfection because they tell all of these deeper stories. And even down to the particular Hebrew word chosen and the choosing of the spelling of that Hebrew word matters, because that spelling of that word, that Hebrew word, has a numeric value that also has symbolism and references and cross references throughout the Bible. So that is the magic of the alphabet. The letters of the alphabet have their own sort of energy personalities, and they are the building blocks of reality, and they all have a specific purpose. And so this is a different side tangent that I got on talking about the Gospel of Philip, but just understanding the scriptures, it's good and helpful to know that when you're reading things and you're like, what is the point of this story? Why do they find it so relevant to put so much attention on this detail when there's only other 4 sentences that describe this whole other situation? It's like, if there is something that seems insignificant, but you're like, why do they keep bringing this up? Then that means it is very significant. And it represents something on a deeper level. So, there's a lot of barbaric things in the Bible, and you're like, it's not necessarily a surface level instruction manual, right? But there are cosmic secrets interwoven into the imagery, using like symbolism to tell these stories, to pass these secrets along to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. All right. So, being the kind of channel that likes to think we have eyes to see and ears to hear, let's get into the portion. So this portion is called Things Visible and Hidden. At present, we encounter the visible things of creation, and we say that they are mighty and worthy, and the hidden things are weak and insignificant. It is not so with the visible things of truth. They are weak and insignificant, but the hidden things are mighty and worthy. So let's read that again. The language is always a bit choppy, and after we read it a couple of times, it's definitely easier to understand. So at present, we encounter the visible things of creation. And we say that they are mighty and worthy, and that the hidden things are weak and insignificant. It is not so with the visible things of truth. They are weak and insignificant, but the hidden things are mighty and worthy. Now, this passage is pointing out that we as human beings go into a default setting of believing all of the things that we can feel, see, taste, smell, and touch. And we put our faith in those things, and we think that those things are solid and unchanging, and they're so sure. It's such a sure thing. It's like if you know anyone who is very literal and earth bound, and they're very material, and they can't even like believe in like spiritual things, or like spiritual, they've never had a spiritual encounter, they don't believe in ghosts, like they don't believe in anything, they're called all woo woo, right? They're putting all of their confidence and all of their faith into the material, what we can see. Agnostics and atheists, they just believe in the universe. They don't believe that there's anything beyond the physical existence. They don't believe that there is a whole, kingdom of mysteries and realms and aeons that we cannot see, that are what we would say are invisible to our physical perception. So people who don't believe in those things, they think that they're fairy tales. They think they're airy-fairy. And even the people that do believe in the spiritual, in the invisible, many times they don't, because of unconsciousness, they don't prioritize the invisible things and the spiritual things. They prioritize the material things. So think about like a driven business person who is all about their career, and they just spend their whole life working towards building power and legacy and wealth and accumulating material possessions, right? Now think about Nicodemus in the Bible. He was he wasn't the high priest, but he was in the high priesthood. And he was the teacher of the rabbis. And so he was one of the head rabbis, the head Pharisees. And so he was paid very well, very comfortable, in a position of power, in a position of respect. But he knew when he met Jesus that Jesus was the Messiah. And this is what he'd been waiting for his whole life. And Jesus invited him to come along and join the ministry. But Nicodemus found it a bit too difficult to leave behind his material possessions and walk away from his comfortable life of certainty and material comforts, right? He was also older and had a wife and a family that he, had obligation to, but then so did Simon Peter. Simon Peter had a wife. So there were other wealthy people that Jesus invited to be disciples or to come along on the ministry, but they couldn't let go of their materialism. So even though the Messiah, the Son of God, God incarnate on earth, is like, hey, you want to be a part of this thing that's going to be like the most important, significant experience of all of existence? They're like, well, I'm so close to retirement now. It's like they put their value in the material things. In modern day, you see people all the time like prioritize their pursuit of position, power, possessions, money, material comforts, right? And people don't set aside a lot of time to do the inner work. This is why my channel is so small. I'm not just a tarot channel that's telling you that you have a twin flame and they're going to leave their spouse any day now, and come get you. Like so many tarot channels are just like that. They're just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to tell you that there's someone that's attracted to you and that you're going to have prosperity soon and all of these things. This channel actually requires, because we're focused on inner growth. So it actually requires you to at least reflect and think about yourself. And you have to take time to even have me tell you to think about that, right? So, that's 20 minutes out of your day that you're devoting to the spiritual, the invisible, because you're valuing that. But not a lot of people do. And that's why there's only, a handful of you that are consistent viewers. But I do think there are people out there that want this. It's just they're harder to find. And so it's like people are too distracted with life these days, and they get busy and they get in their mundane and they think that this is all that matters. They get caught up in, I've got to make rent and I've got to do this and I've got to, and the more money you have, the more you feel anxiety and pressure to do more, spend more, plan more things. And when it takes effort to set aside time in our day to grow, to learn scripture, to get closer to God, to reflect on ourselves. And I know because I try to do, that every day and set that time aside. And I know that I don't have a lot of extra time to get other things done during the day. It's like everything is like, okay, I've got this much time and this much time and this much time. That's why I don't necessarily comment back to comments a lot. If I haven't answered your comment, it's just because there's just not enough time left in the day to do it. I fell asleep last night before I finished dinner. I didn't even finish eat my hot dinner last night. I just fell asleep after the salad. But yeah, so many people put all of their energy and their time and their life goes by and they haven't done the spiritual work because they really didn't value it. They didn't think it was that important. But it always catches up to us because those people that don't value the spiritual things and the hidden things and the invisible things, something eventually catches up to them and crisis catches up to them. And when you are desperate and in pain and scared and uncertain, it's like you're like, oh, some things my money can't shield me from. Some things my power can't shield me from. Some things that my position at my job cannot shield me from. If you get sick, with an illness, no, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't negotiate with illness. And at that point, that's when people say, oh, wow, I haven't actually built a relationship with God so that I know how to handle situations like this. And they feel completely lost and exposed and terrified. And so that is the only moment sometimes it takes for some people sometimes it's the only thing that can get people to click on and be like, oh, all of the material fortitude in the world can't help me right now. And so then they see, oh, all of this that we think is so solid and so certain, it's not. It can change in a moment. We are light packets, and we're not as solid as we look. And this matrix is shifting and changing, and there are endless realities, right? And our consciousness can just click on to a new reality when we change. When we have a revelation and when we change something in ourselves, it's like we shift timelines. And so the thought to me, it comes naturally to me to think, okay, all the invisible things are so much more significant, worthy, and powerful than the things we can see. But to many people, it is the very opposite thinking. They think that they only rely on what they can understand, what they can see, what they can put their hands on. They're very logical, very reason driven. So let's read the portion again. Things visible and hidden. At present, we encounter the visible things of creation. So as we are alive in this incarnation, we're here in the material world. We are here in things that are visible, that we can see, that we can touch, that are solid. So at present, we encounter the visible things of creation, and we say that they are mighty and worthy. So we're putting all of our confidence and our attention and our value and our energy into chasing these material things. We put so much confidence and faith in these material things. And we think that the hidden things are weak and insignificant. They're not worth our time. We don't set aside enough time to make a relationship with those invisible hidden things because we don't think they're worthy, or we have doubts that they're really real. Oh, what if I put all my time and energy into this and it just turns out to be a fairy tale? And then I wasted all my time when I could have bought a yacht. It's like we've got our priorities mixed up, because all that we see, all that we can feel, it's got a ticking clock on the shelf life, right? Everything has an expiration date, and we're slowly rotting and decaying from the moment we take our first breath. And everything in this world that we see, it decays and it breaks down. Everything, including the fabric of reality, it just degrades over time. But it's the light of the Creator that is eternal. And the spiritual and the non-physical, this is what's eternal. Our soul and our consciousness and our spirit within us is eternal. It will go on when this flesh suit is rotten and dust and dirt. And we take this soul and the spirit with us through each lifetime, through the lifetimes, through incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. Now, just the size and scope of reality, this is all of the manifest existence here. These three lines, this represents the three negative veils, the three veils of non-existence. And so this is the first point at which the light began to be self-realized, and it began to shine through into existence. And all of these different circles here, these are different dimensions of reality, but they're also different dimensions and aspects of God's personality. This is the Godhead. This is also all of the different governing dimensions of the human soul and the human consciousness. So it's like a map that tells multiple different things at once, just like the Bible that we talked about. So all of these realms and dimensions up here, these 9 Sphirot, are part of what we call the upper realms. And this is the non-physical. This is the existence that we are a part of, but this is not physical reality. Right here, this is the dream world. This is where souls enter and leave through the world. This is the astral realm. So this is the first dimension next to us that is still non-physical, but we have access to it. We touch it. We stroke up against it sometimes. These up here, these are the upper realms that we do not really make contact with necessarily, but there are governing angels attached to all of these dimensions. And then it's not till we get down here, the very bottom, this is the physical reality down here. This is the whole multiverse. All the universe and all the multiverses and everything that's physical and materialized, not just our local universe, but all of them, all the physically materialized existence is here in Malchut. Okay? So this is also called the 1%. This is the visible. All of this is the 99%. This is the rest of reality. This is the machine that is producing this little example of what we actually live. It would be nothing if it weren't for this entire factory machine creating reality and spitting it out into the physical expression. So one of our key lessons and insights to understand as human beings on this earth, one of the things that we're here to grasp is that we ourselves are nothing without the Creator. I am a vessel. I am a sleeve. I am a husk. I am a tube. I am a channel. Without the light of the Creator giving me life, giving me animation, gifting me and letting me borrow my soul so that I can express my own individual personality, independent from the being in the whole unified unity of the creator. So like without our ego, without our individual layers of our soul, we would just be reabsorbed back into all that is, and we would not be anymore. We would not. We would be not. We wouldn't exist, right? It's our layers of personality that give us an individual existence and expression and incarnation. If not, once we shed all of our ego, we just get reabsorbed back into the whole, and we are no longer an individually realized entity. Does that make sense? So without the creator, we would just die. The flesh suit would fall down and would rot, right? The light bulb is great, but without plugging it in to the wall and getting electricity, it doesn't illuminate. The light bulb is just a vessel to channel the light, just like us, just like everything, right? My job is a vessel to channel the light of sustenance. But without the creator, my job is nothing, right? It's not my job that provides for me. It is the creator that provides for me through the channel of my job. Now, it occurred to me today that working at a restaurant is a really efficient way to put yourself in an environment to work off your karma quickly. And the more you become awakened to what you're doing, then the less chaos outside of work you might need to experience. So for instance, see the scales back there? This is like the cosmic scales of reality. And we each have that scale, right? And we have one side is our negativity, one side is our positivity. And we are constantly throughout our lifetime working off our negativity from past lives and from this life. And we're trying to build positivity to weigh down the positive side, on our positive side. When we transmute the negativity, it puts light on the positive side. So when we go through chaos or pain or suffering or struggle or confusion, it's a lot of times those are the scenarios that are helping us work off and transmute our negativity, right? So I was thinking today, in a restaurant environment, if you are awakened and aware of the fact that everything that happens to you as a server and like what the money that you make, the cover, the amount of like people that end up sitting at your table, like all of that is like pre-planned, and it is exactly what you deserve. Even if it feels unfair, even if you feel like something unjust has happened, it's like according to the cosmic scale, whatever you had that day was like the shitty things that happened balanced out the scale for you in some way. And then the positive things that happened, that was like the light that you earned and the mercy that you received. But if we thought about it that way, then, and I thought about it tonight, it helped me be so much less pissed off when things didn't go my way. Because I'm like, oh, you know what? It's okay. Because I'm paying off some of my karma, right? And I don't have to have a flat tire, right? I could go outside, and instead of having a flat tire, I just had some guests do some annoying things and didn't tip me so well. And that was like me paying the taxes on my past negativity and paying them off. It's like paying off a fine, right? So if you start embracing it that way, then it's like every shift you go in, not only are you proactively trying to overcome your triggers and your personality defects and your prejudices and your limiting beliefs and all of that, but you're also surfing and gracefully like navigating the score eveners that are happening to you through the night too. But I don't know. I just think that's a really fast and efficient way to correct your karma. So if anybody else is in the service industry and you find yourself like getting disgruntled sometime, that might be a good way to think of it, is that you're not being victimized. This is actually an opportunity that is easier to deal with, and it's faster, and it gets your work done faster than if you just waited for these random things to come along in your life that stirred things up, right? So that's very efficient. Okay. So we look outside of ourselves and we're like, oh, my spouse is, it gives me a sense of security and safety. They could be gone tomorrow, whether by accident, a tragedy, or infidelity. Like nothing is solid. Nothing is guaranteed in this world except for death and taxes. And so it's really like the only thing that we can truly put our certainty and faith in is the invisible, is the things that we can't see. We have a record number of suicides, especially this year, in 2025. Because I think that there are so many people that are agnostic and atheists now, and they have no faith. And when you have no faith in a year like this year, it's so easy to become completely despondent and fall into total despair, because it's like the rise of evil overlords in every way, everywhere we look. And so if you don't have faith that there's something that is going to come out on the other side of this, or that there is a God, or if you are, even with faith right now, it's very difficult watching the religious nationalists, people in their extremism. It's so easy to become disheartened and hopeless and fall into total despair and think that there's nothing else to live for and nothing good's going to happen anymore. And, this is it. It's too easy to go into that downward spiral and get sucked in and weighed down by this darkness without any faith. It's far too easy. So to me, it is the invisible things that are holding it all together. And I mean, that's not just my opinion. That is the absolute fact. So the life force that I am given is not mine. It is the Creator. I'm nothing without the Creator. I can do all the right things and, take all the right steps. But if the Creator doesn't help my efforts, then they're wasted. I can do everything that they tell me to make my reels viral, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, God is my publicist. And I'm doing my part and I'm doing my half. We can't be complacent. But ultimately, it's the Creator, it's God, it's Jesus, it's the angels, it's the spiritual and the non-physical things that we can't see that have the most influence. Vibration, right? Vibration doesn't lie. And your vibe is stronger than your willpower. So even though you might will yourself into a situation where you're trying to draw in an opportunity or whatever, if your vibration doesn't match that opportunity, it doesn't matter if you do everything right and you are unstoppable, it will somehow become deflected because it doesn't resonate with you. So that's another example of how invisible things are stronger and more significant than what we can actually see. Our vibration doesn't lie, and if we don't resonate with something, then we cannot connect with it. Same with God. That's why we want to perfect our vessel to become more like God's image and more like the Christ, so that we can draw close to God, in affinity with God, and be in that realm of protection and blessing and flow. So at present, we encounter the visible things of creation, and we say that they are mighty and worthy, and the hidden things are weak and insignificant. But it is not so with the visible things of truth. They are weak and insignificant, but the hidden things are mighty and worthy, right? Now, think about this even, like, aside from the fact that obviously this is saying that, like, God is more mighty than any physical security that we take refuge in, right? God is mightier than any enemy that we fear, right? And because how many times do we put our faith in our fear, right? We have so much faith and certainty and confidence in the fearful catastrophizing, right? But so many times it's hard to put our faith in a belief that things are going to be okay, you know? So think about, okay, so aside from like relating this specifically to God and angelic support and whatnot, but look at emotions, how strong and how powerful they are right now. Look at the White House this week. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are having a very public and messy breakup, and they are muckraking each other all over the public and the internet, and they're having emotional meltdowns. And so look at these two people who are the head of the brainwashed cult that lifts them up to this cult hero status because they're both wealthy. Like, see, they're people that idolize these two monsters and have voted for them. They've been sucked into the idea that materialism is everything. And that is the strongest thing in the world. It's biggest army, biggest robots, biggest bank accounts, Tesla. It's all computer. Ugh. So here we are with our big men who are big and strong and powerful, and oh my gosh, this is they want everybody to worship them as if they were gods and kings, and they're so insignificant and weak that, like, look at them, they're fighting like babies, and they are trying to like expose each other's dirt and, take each other's billion-dollar contracts back and, spread, ruin each other's reputation. And it's like, are any of us surprised that like Trump is included in the Epstein files? Like, I don't want to take away from our outrage and disgust, but I mean, is this actual news? We've seen all the pictures of them posing together like besties. Like, wake up. But yeah, so like all these people in the world today are like completely buying into this, and their priorities are completely out of whack. I know for a fact, and for an example, someone who is very close to me, who all my life had made himself out to be this man of God, and that was his number one priority over anything else, is the number one Donald Trump supporter. And I'm like, how are you in agreement with any of these horrors and atrocities? Like, do you not have a basic sense of conscience that you can identify what is clear, right from wrong, and good versus evil? Like, you can't understand evil when you see it. And he's so blind because he wants to be a successful businessman. He wants to be powerful and rich like these people. He has misplaced his values, and he values money, power, and sex appeal. And he thinks that he's a righteous man of God, but here's where all of his value and his voting power and his attitude has gone to. All of his efforts in his life have been made towards building money, building a company, building what he hopes to be powerful and a well-known reputation. Meanwhile, he's, wants to have all the bravado and performativeness and wants everybody to feel like he's the most righteous patriarch. Yet all of his actions, all of his energy are centered around money and the acquirement of and becoming powerful and idolizing and worshiping the most evil people in the world. And this is someone who basically told me for 40 years that the Antichrist is coming and that we have to remain vigilant and ruined our childhood over it. So this is exactly, this verse is talking about exactly what we see playing out in the world stage right now. People are, their priorities are completely fucked and out of whack. They're putting all their faith in the materialism while they're telling you out the other side of their ass that they're so righteous and have so much faith. But they don't believe in any of that, right? Because they're not valuing that. They're not putting it first. They're not sacrificing and risking the material things to prioritize the spiritual things. They're doing everything ass backwards, but they're telling you the opposite. They're gaslighting all of us. So things visible and hidden. At present, we encounter the visible things of creation. Oh, but back to that whole like Donald Trump, Elon Musk thing. Their emotional instability is the thing that's imploding this whole thing right now. That is invisible. That is the invisible influence taking them out completely. And that's just their emotional immaturity, right? Let's all remember all the times that we've had, that we could have had like a good, oh my God, Marianne Williamson. I think she would have been an excellent president, but people don't vote for women for president because they think that women are too emotional, and too impulsive and too, unpredictable to be a president, to be a leader. This is precious. This is precious. Okay, so things visible and hidden. We're going to read this one more time and then we're out. At present, we encounter the visible things of creation, and we say that they are mighty and worthy, and that the hidden things are weak and insignificant. It is not so with the visible things of truth. They are weak and insignificant, but the hidden things are mighty and worthy. That's where we need to put our investment, into our soul. When you are dead and you've left, what is your afterlife retirement plan? Because when we leave this body, our soul can't do any more work on itself. And so the ability to navigate the afterlife, like people who do the spiritual work now, they're preparing their soul to be able to navigate the afterlife and to be able to be elevated in the afterlife, right? But people who completely ignore all that, I don't know what they're gonna be dealing with, but when people die, they can be very disoriented and confused and not even know that they're dead, and have to be told, and they're lost in navigating, the process once we leave our bodies. So I remember my best friend from years ago died suddenly in an accident, and he came to me in a dream, and he was really confused, and he looked blue and dead in the dream. It was like he was carrying around his body, and he was disoriented and kind of lost and like kind of feeble. And in the dream, a bunch of stuff was going on at once, and there were a couple of people around this like issue that we were dealing with. And I looked at him and I said, "And you're dead?" And he was like, it was like the first time he'd realized it. And then I had a couple of other mutual friends who also told me that they had dreams where they had to tell him he was dead. So again, be prepared, do the work in this life. Do the work to change your heart, because we're going to be standing before the judges one day and have to answer for what we did while we were on earth. We are brought here to incarnate with the purpose and assignment and the deposit of a soul. This is a precious gift that we are given, and we're supposed to be working with this soul while we're here in these incarnations, and healing this soul and elevating the soul and illuminating the soul and awakening the soul and activating the soul and bringing it to life. So how are you treating yours? Are you putting any investment into it? Have you put any work into your investment, into your heart and soul? Because you're going to be asked that when we no longer have these physical flesh suits on. Right? When the rental has come up and we're going back to the rental agency, They're going to be like, what did you do? What were you there doing? And it's going to be like, well, I went to some games and I ordered some things from Amazon and, I went on vacation. Went out to eat, went to the bar. Things visible and hidden. At present, we encounter the visible things of creation, and we say that they are mighty and worthy, and the hidden things are weak and insignificant. It is not so with the visible things of truth. They are weak and insignificant, but the hidden things are mighty and worthy. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow for our weekly energy oracle forecast, where we take a look at the week ahead and see what kind of energy we will be living and moving and having our being in. Peace.